Welcome back to part 2 of my examination of this question right here. Now, last week we left off at defining who the major players are. There are a lot of different definitions of what evidence-based practice is or how it's defined. Go to Google and you can find it. But I like this definition right here. In the sports or sports performance or coaching world, this is another example, which I think is really helpful. Which is why it's really important for those of us in the swim lesson world that we can't continue to just simply go by the research exclusively. Because as you can see by a lot of these diagrams, it is a mix of both practitioner experience, client experience, environment, context, as well as the best research out there. So if we look at ourselves in the swim lesson world as coaches, then I think a really good question is, well, what does evidence-based coaching look like? And I thought this was a really fantastic example of exactly what we do. So interestingly enough, the term evidence-based coaching was actually coined by the University of Sydney's psychology coaching unit back in 2003. And why I think it's really important to offer this clarification that evidence-based practice within a coaching or sports performance paradigm is very different than in the medical field. Within the medical field, research should dictate practice. And oftentimes in the medical field, research or evidence-based is often analogous or synonymous with double-blind controlled studies and contextualized trials, which is very different from sports coaching. So I find this particular definition really great for those of us that are in the swim lesson world of how we want to adapt evidence-based practice into our linguistics. So now that we've sort of defined what evidence-based practice is within this scope of swim instructors and swim lessons, I also think it's really helpful for us to be on the same page about what is evidence really and how do we best collect it. Now, in a lot of the sports performance and coaching literature, this is a pretty common diagram. The American Red Cross's Scientific Advisory Council did an extensive literature review, and we're going to get into that soon. But I want to bring up this graph right here because this is how they categorize evidence and they categorize studies. So this is going to be really helpful as we go through this series. One of the challenges in our industry, and I think that's befallen upon a lot of swim instructors across multidisciplines, is that they rely too much and define evidence-based practice as ideas, opinions, anecdotes, editorials. However, that's the bottom level. And yet too many individuals are relying on that as scientific literature. So please stop by for part 3. We're going to pick this up next week and look a little bit more about evidence, how we define it, and what studies have been done. Safe swimming.